Hello everybody. I realize I started on the wrong page. There we go. Okay, so it's week 9 out of like 15 weeks of content, 16 if you count finals. You'll may have noticed already, I don't know, that we don't have a real final in this class. We have like more of a reflection piece, which I think is great. So really 15 weeks of content and we're on week 9. So we are cruising right along, which is great. Like if you have been doing all the stuff there is to do, you've learned a lot already and we got more to learn. But if you are like, oh, what? I registered for a class? Oh, I had some trouble keeping up with stuff. And it's been like 6 weeks since you've even looked at it or something. Like I think some of you have. At this point, I don't think it makes sense to try to catch up. It just depends on how far behind you are, you know. But we could talk about it. I found that some students felt that it was very helpful to keep on going just to see the content so that when they take the class again, they're more familiar with it. If you are in one of those situations, then please contact me so we can talk about it. Okay, so back to the regularly scheduled programming here. In Chapter 9, we're talking about your immune system and coronavirus. How timely is that? So this one, soft chalk that goes over immunity, the immune system, how coronavirus works. You're going to be the coronavirus expert in your family. Effects on the human body and epidemiology. So epidemiology is the science of epidemics. So please note in this one, there are these tabs. Yeah. Make sure you've read through all of these systems. I think this takes you, oh no, it certainly does not. Yeah, you have to click all these tabs. So read through this page on the respiratory system. It's a little sneaky. I remember these when I was doing the training for distance education. It's like, I know it looks like I only have one page I have to read. No big deal, but really, truly, just to know there's actually like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whole pages to read. But you'll know so much more about your own body when you're done, and coronavirus and how it affects it. So make sure to click on all those tabs. And I think there is down here a reminder. Be sure to read through all the tabs before you move on, which is important. And watch the videos, of course. Okay. Then we've got some little Quizlys and some soft chalks, case study, how we prevent the spread of COVID-19. And this is so, so important. Finding reputable information. I think I have this tab opened up. I do. Okay, so I'm not going to watch the videos with you. Blowing a hairdryer up your nose can cure coronavirus. And this is an elected official. I don't know about the voters in this country, let me tell you. I don't know about the citizens in this country sometimes either. Okay, so indeed, we talked about this before, talked about it. You were supposed to have read about it before, and I have assumed that you've gone over this content. But it bears repeating over and over and over. Like, I wish that everybody in the world of social media had to understand this, and so often they don't. So what kind of source is it? Primary is like, I did the research and now I'm writing about it. Secondary is, oh, I found this really great study. I'm going to tell you about it because it's so great. So understanding the difference is important. What is the actual source of the content? Is it a marketing website? Because those you can't really trust for unbiased content. Now, the government or intergovernmental agencies, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't trust the CDC. Like, it's a questionable thing. Because right now there's been a lot of politicizing of these agencies. But in general, if they have any information on there that lacks credibility, they get called to task. I mean, they get sued. They have to deal with the consequences of if they put out something that's false. So they have a vested interest in making sure that what they publicize is accurate information. Scholarly or scientific journals, most are original research, considered high quality sources of information. Occasionally you'll get some weird thing that gets published. So not all journals are created equally. Some are what's called a pay to play journal, where if you actually pay the journal to publish your paper, and unless you know what those journals are, it takes a little bit of depth research to understand whether the journal is super credible. There are big, obvious, credible journals, but that's why I say I want you to have at least 3 sources of information when you do research. Because if you pull out one of these pay-to-play papers and it's not really a good one, but that's the only source you have, then you may be believing something that's really not supported. Now, keep in mind that science is not one paper. Science, I do this because I'm taking up all the space here, right? It's a monolith. I mean, it's not. It's a giant discipline, and it moves towards the truth like an army marching along. Not really so good, but it's not about one paper or one researcher. It's about a body of knowledge that moves forth, and that's what makes it so powerful. Because you can almost always find like some weird scientist who believes something that nobody else believes, and their research maybe isn't great, but they got a job somewhere, and they, people, oh, but look at this person believes this, and like, yeah, but they're standing alone in a field full of people that say that's not so. So it's really more of a consensus approach, which I think it's a good thing. Okay, so indeed, in popular media is like, they just want you to click. So be careful about that. And then more information and really excellent resources to find for COVID-19 stuff there. Okay, so now truth or myth? Can't decide. Is it up there? No, it's not. Sorry. Okay, so this is a discussion post where you are supposed to, I'm just going to open it. Oh no, it's so slow. I always regret it when I do that. So we have a few groups. You take one of these posts. Before you pick a claim to research, make sure that nobody already picked that claim, so you need to have a unique claim. And then you look up one of these things, explain whether it's true or not, using evidence from a reputable source. And keep in mind that if you are using evidence from a reputable source, you are citing that information, as we've already gone over in past assignments, how to cite stuff. And then as well, I think I forgot. Oh, you're putting in your own words. You're not just copy pasting. I mean, if you are, you can copy paste like a phrase or a sentence in quotes, but fundamentally when you're doing research, you may be jotting down notes as you're looking at the source, but you're not taking the content that source has and then just plug it in your paper and putting your name on the assignment, because that implies that you put all those words together. So be careful about that, okay? And then by Sunday night is responding to your colleague's post on there, okay? And then we go back to here. So that's the first discussion that's due, and then let me see, I'll go over the where it fits in the module, and then I'll actually go over the assignment. There we go. Slow Canvas, slow. Aha. Okay. So truth or myth, responding to that post, whether it's truth or myth. Getting to know a scientist, another really great one. I love these assignments. I did not create them. It's the first time that we've done them, and I think they're really awesome. I liked the last scientist, whose name I forgot, who studied poop, because he was like just so, I don't know, matter of fact about it, and like really excited about his research. And anyway, so this woman is a COVID researcher. And then we go on for immunity, a quiz, and then moving right along. Aha, that's what I have opened up there. Right there. Okay. Now, then we get into a little bit about the specific risk factors. Like you may have heard the term comorbidity, that there are some things that give you a much greater risk of having a bad case of COVID. Things like age. If you're greater than 70, it increases your risk of having a bad case of COVID or dying of COVID. If you are obese, that increases your risk. If you have, I think there were different lung diseases, made your risk greater. So this assignment actually goes into that a little bit. So this first assignment, I hope this opens up here. Let's see. It does. It sure does. Okay. So for this first assignment, we have specific groups. And in order to try to make sure there was at least 4 people posting, I made the groups really big because very sadly, disappointingly, we have a lot of people that just are not, they're just not doing the assignments. Okay. So, but for those of you that are, here we go. You can choose to be a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, nephrologist, or a pulmonologist. So the first thing is, like, what do you do? What body system is your specialty and the main organs of that system? And then you look through this list of 8 different diseases, which are all comorbidities. They all increase your damage if you have COVID, your likelihood of having a severe case. And you should have at least 2 of them, no matter what your specialty is. There are at least 2 things on here that are related. Explain why it's related and use a citation that shows where you got the information that told you that. Then we go through. So I'm taking a little bit of time for this because it's important. The Los Angeles Department of Public Health is educational outreach to high-risk communities. You will use this actual accurate public health data to identify a community that may have especially bad cases of COVID-19 to encourage them to be particularly safe. So using your answer to number 3, these diseases, analyzing the health condition data below to determine which city has really poor health outcomes related to the specific comorbidities that you're looking at. Choose one: Compton, Inglewood, Lenox, Vernon, or Cudahy, and briefly explain why. Don't use the county. That's just a compilation just to give you some averages to look at, to compare to. Okay, so that's the first part of that. And that is due by October 22nd. October 22nd, I'm guessing, is Thursday. And then we have the next one, okay? So after that, ideally everyone's got that done by Thursday night. We hope, right? And this one, I'm going to make a wild guess, is due on 25th. But there's 2 posts here, so that's going to be a little tricky. It may be, I'll have to double check that the next one goes into next week. So for this one, you just pick one of the comorbidities that you identified last time in your mental health specialty. Select the one that you think is of greatest concern based on what that comorbidity ranking was, whether it was like a really big deal and how common it is in the community that you looked at. Title the post with the name of the health condition that you chose. Write a paragraph addressing the following: what city was particularly vulnerable, and say why. What body systems and organs are affected. Major causes and risk factors of this health condition. So what causes it, genetics, lifestyle factors, whatever. And the risk factors of this health condition, like what does it mean that you're more likely to die young? Does it mean you're more likely to get this other disease or suffer from or whatever? How can you prevent that health condition? This is in paragraph form. Cite all sources fully, always. Okay, got it. Okay, I think this is going into next week. Okay, but just for a heads up for what's coming up next week. Choose one classmate's post to respond to. And then we got a lot of details here to look at. Of course, if you are responding and there's a bunch of other responses there and like 2 people responded to this one post, then choose a different one, ideally. Your goal is to identify risk factors for your classmates' chosen health condition in that community that they identified it in. And now you're going to look at all of these different things that are measured, part of a Healthy Plan LA, or like an index of health in this area. You will identify all the risk factors you believe are relevant to their health condition. Okay, so let's say that, like, being elderly may be an issue. Eating poor quality food might be an issue. Excess drinking of alcoholic beverages could be a problem. Smoking, polluted air, less physical exercise, all kinds of stuff like that, right? Like if those are associated with that disease, like you want to identify that. And now analyze the risk factor data below, because this actually looks at the different communities. And you can say like, wow, elderly, not such a huge issue in Lenox or Cudahy. I never know if I'm saying that word right. But Compton and Vernon, it's higher, and certainly in Inglewood, it's 10%. So I think maybe that's 10% of the population. That seems high. So you still don't want to be aware of what the units here. So percent is right here. Access to grocery stores and farmers markets, like how many are in the area, the number of them, right? Like not probably a big problem in Lenox, but wow, in Vernon there's 1. Okay, so like that would be an issue. So now you want to look at this specific area that your classmate was focused on and look and see what issues they would have. What risk factors are of the highest concern in your classmate's selected city? Explain using the data. Okay, so it's all about the data. Anyway, I'm about to run out of time, but that's essentially it. Well, that's the second post, but I think that's for next week. And then finished. And now I'm finished. And I hope you finish early. Anyway, bye.